So we're almost live. For those of y'all just joining in, let us know your favorite social media platform in the chat. And maybe what role do you play in tech? Are you a designer, product manager, software engineer? Awesome, we are live. We're super excited to have Anne here with us to discuss about how to build your online presence in terms of your career growth and leveling up your career. And here with me is Kate from our events team with Design Buddies. And this is our first Design Buddies event. Welcome. I have a very few quick slides to show and just some quick house rules. Let me share my screen really quick. So Design Buddies is a really large design community. And I founded it back in April of 2020, aimed to connect designers together and offer a lot of resources. So we have a lot of resources like this to help you level up your design career. And we post a lot of events, workshops, design challenges as well. And feel free to connect with us in the links that Kate dropped in the chat. And just some quick house rules. Events are recorded. By attending, you grant consent. However, if you don't want to be in a recording, you can join on a YouTube channel, which is just Design Buddies. And just live streaming there as well. Feel free to engage in the chat and connect with each other on the networking sheet shared. As this event's about social media, we want y'all to get more social media connections too. And throughout, we have a Q&A session towards the end, but if any questions come up during our talk, we'll have a Slido link where you can submit your questions in and upvote each other. So we can do a Q&A session at the end. And right between Anne's presentation and Q&A, you'll have a group selfie. And Kate also dropped in the chat, we have some Zoom backgrounds y'all welcome to use here or with your school or work. We're Design Buddies anywhere you go if you want. But yeah, also share takeaways on social media, tag Design Buddies, tag Anne, connect with each other, just hop in, and also welcome to hop into our Discord community and just have fun and be respectful. And thank you. With that, I'll hand it over to Anne.
Awesome, thank you. Hold this up. All right, does everybody see my screen? I was having some issues. Great. Awesome, thank you. You guys can understand this. My Mac is like 9 years old, and it's time to update. And I'm just waiting for the big display screen Mac with the M1 chip. And then I found out it's like totally back ordered. So I may get one in January or February. But hello, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight. And I understand, I think you guys are from all over the globe. I know we were asking like what your fave social media channels are, but I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from because it is virtual. So it also gives us that opportunity to connect with folks from all around the world. California, Atlanta, yay, Atlanta. Actually, it's one of my favorite cities. I'm going to be there in a couple of months. Kansas City, Bay Area, I love it. Hello, Wisconsin. Denver, I love Denver. One of my top cities to go visit. I love it. I love seeing everybody. I'm in Houston, Texas, and I think Grace Ling is in the Bay Area and Kate is in the Philippines. So as I mentioned, we are truly a global audience. And so welcome again to Elevating Your Online Presence. Just a little bit about me. I'm a digital marketer, and I typically work with B2B companies and brands. So just, companies that sell to other businesses. And I help them by developing and implementing marketing plans, which helps to bring more brand awareness and amplify their brand, gain trust in their brand, and ultimately, hopefully, leading to close revenue for them. But the most important thing that I consider myself to be, and a very important piece of my brand, is that I'm a community builder who believes that nurturing relationships drives success. And then just a little personal stuff about me. I love social media, as we've already kind of discussed in our intro conversation here. I love learning about new tech tools. So if you guys know of any great tech tools, let me know. I love to travel. I love dogs, puppies, and the Oxford comma. I know that AP style says we don't have to use it anymore, but it's absolutely necessary. And then also a huge part of who I am and what my brand is, giving back and volunteering and making that impact on the world. So that's all important to me. Oh, somebody's from New Zealand. Welcome. I love it. So I have done this presentation several times in the last few years. And so as part of it and preparing for it, I did a little informal research. And this is actually, I think, probably 2 years old now. And when I say informal, I just popped this poll up on my LinkedIn profile and asked my network what they thought of their personal brand. So I'm going to ask you guys, everybody who's attending here, how well built do you think your brand is? Your online presence, is it strong? Do you think you need some updating, some work? Do you need a lot of work on your brand? And, last but definitely something to consider, which I have heard before, what exactly is a personal brand? So I'm seeing needs a lot of work, needs some work, needs updating. And as you can see from my very informal poll, the majority of people who answered is very much like yourself, that you need some updating and work. And then there's, kind of between the remaining, it needs a lot of work, or they feel that their branding is very strong. So I'm hoping that the information I share tonight will help you to update your work or your brand, update it, but also help you to create a stronger and more firm brand, right? So I'm going to start off with this definition of personal branding. There are lots of definitions around, but this one I found I really liked, and it's truly what speaks to me and what and how I help people to amplify their personal brand. So the process of personal branding involves finding your uniqueness, building a reputation on the thing you want to be known for, and then allowing yourself to be known for them. So think about this definition, right? What's your uniqueness? And old school days, before we had this idea of online presence and personal branding, it was your reputation. So that's really, really what your brand is. It's the cornerstone of your brand is your reputation and what you're known for. And then how do you allow others to know what it is that you do? Well, in this day and age, in this environment of business, we have the internet. We have all these online tools to help us to amplify our personal brand. So when you start thinking about your personal brand, your online presence, think about the story that you have. Each of us has a unique story. Grace started out as an engineer. She decided that she wanted to move into a career of design. I have been, across the last 30 years of my professional life, been in so many different industries. I started off in banking. I have been in the real estate title industry. I have been in the newspaper industry selling advertising and marketing solutions, which is probably where I kind of grew this love of marketing. I've been in the educational travel space. So, it's very different. All of these industries that I've been in are wide and varied and different. So don't be afraid of, kind of limiting yourself. That you're in one industry or in one career role and you want to move into another one. You absolutely can, because guess what? The commodity that you're selling is yourself, is your expertise, your skills, your experience. And that translates across any career position that you have or any role you have, or even if you want to move out of a corporate career into owning your own business and being, having your own design business or a freelancer. So remember, you are the brand, and this is what you're going to develop, right? It also gives you a chance to showcase your skills, experience, your subject matter expertise, which is what is your value. And then your brand should be connecting with your community in a personal and genuine way. And when I talk about community, I mean everybody that you want to connect with to help you achieve your goals in your brand. So that could be colleagues, that could be others who are in the same industry as you, that could be your prospective employers, prospective clients. Let's see, who else? Just people that are possibly industry leaders, thought leaders in your particular niche. Those are all folks that can be in your community that you can connect with, that could help you or that you could help. I just wanted to share a couple of quotes. I'd asked a couple of colleagues what they thought of, personal brand, right? And so Vanessa, who's one of my PR colleagues, says, your brand speaks louder than you do. And then you've got to create your brand or someone else will. So this idea of personal branding and controlling it and grabbing onto it and kind of shaping what it looks like is very vital to today's business environment. But again, as I mentioned previously, you've got to do it in a genuine way so that people know that you're authentic and you are who you say you are, right? One of the best compliments that I've ever gotten is folks that I've connected with online, when they meet me in person, will say, "You're exactly like you are online." So that brand and that persona that I portray online is me, is genuinely me. And when we talk about an online presence, well, as the pandemic has shown us, having a global connection and global reach is so important, and being able to reach others via the internet or online is so important, because for a long time we weren't able to connect with each other in person, and in certain parts of the world we still have those restrictions, right? But so this digital presence is so important because you are able to reach folks globally. When I began my professional career and I networked, I was limited to my own backyard in my local area. But because of the advent of the internet and social media channels and other tools, we are able to connect with anyone, anywhere in the world. And so, utilize that, take advantage of that benefit of a digital presence to be able to connect with others around the globe. Don't limit yourselves. So what you want to think about is like, who do you want to connect with, or who do you want to reach? And then we'll start doing some research on that. Now, just a quick question. Has anyone Googled themselves? If you haven't, I encourage you to do so. Grace has. What did you find, Grace?
I found a lot of running stuff. In high school, I was really into cross country and track, so a lot of running stuff, some design stuff, some engineering stuff. So it's also the name of a book. There's a book named Graceling, so some of that as well.
Awesome. And so, no, that's great. All those that that have Googled yourself, that's great, right? So does that represent what your brand is? And if not, how do you change that, right? So my name is very common in the Vietnamese culture. So when I Google An Nguyen, I literally have thousands of people look at. And so I've had to work really hard to get to the top. I'm not at the top of the Google searches, but if you look, LinkedIn is typically what people will find first, and that's the most important thing to me. All right, so let's get started. What makes you unique? What makes you memorable, right? So let's start thinking about that question. So being unique, what is it that you're known for? I know that many in your community who are joining us tonight are designers, UX designers, UI designers, in a creative field. So what are you known for? Are you a UX designer that works specifically with nonprofits? Are you a UX designer that works specifically in a niche, right? What do you want to be known for? Your subject matter expertise. What new skills do you want to learn? What do others think or say about you? And one of my colleagues in marketing said, go ask 25 people what they think about you. So if you're brave enough, go ask 25 people in your circle, both your professional and your personal life, what they think of you. And that'll give you an idea, though, of what is part of your brand. And then who do you want to connect with or reach, as I mentioned previously? And that's your community. So again, that could be collaborators, other colleagues, people who are in the design industries yourself. I often hear from folks that they are hesitant to connect with those that they feel like are competitors. And I think there's a lot to learn from folks who may be doing the same thing you are. I am connected to many marketers. I don't consider them as competitors, because there's enough business to go around for everybody, but they're a great community for me to learn from, to vent to, because we all have the same issues and challenges. And really it's just, and also because not everybody's going to be a good fit for you as a client or an employer, and vice versa. So if I come across a prospective client that is not what I do or specialize in, but I know another marketer who does, I'm happy to recommend them to that person. So that's why, don't be afraid to connect and collaborate with others who are in the same industry or in the same position as you are. And then finally, what's your brand voice? That's going to be the personality of your brand. So, on LinkedIn, I have found myself to be hopefully becoming a little bit more casual. In the past, it was very formal. I called it corporate speak. But because of the business environment, today's business environment, we are moving more towards being a little more casual and not so much corporate speak. But there are still boundaries, right? Like I'm not going to post a Facebook meme on LinkedIn. Any questions about, I'm going to back it up a little bit. Oops, sorry, I moved it forward too much. Any questions about like what makes you unique? And those questions were meant to make you think about it. And I'd love to hear some of those comments about what, you want to be known for, what you want others to what you want to learn, what subject matter expertise you want to develop. And then, hold on, sorry, I'm in slideshow mode, so it's hard for me to back up. So when you're thinking about all the things that you that make you unique, right? As most companies have what they call a brand statement. So think of it as your mission statement, your vision statement. And so when you have answered those questions, then create your brand statement for yourself. And I think, Grace, are we sharing this presentation with everybody too?
If you want to.
Okay. And I'm happy to share it. It's not, and that way they can go back and decide, okay, this is how I want to create my brand statement. I'm just reading a few. I think the casualness of business conversation climate is honestly helping a lot of people network more efficiently. I agree, Elias. And so my brand statement, as I mentioned in my introduction, was that I help businesses to develop and implement marketing plans that will help amplify their brand and help to eventually lead to closed business. And then I also, part of my brand statement, I'm a community builder who believes that relationships and developing and nurturing relationships will lead to success. So that's what my brand is about, because it reflects my expertise, what I do, and it reflects what I believe in community, building that community. And so now that I've given you all that food for thought, you're sitting there going, where do I start, right? You kind of look like this guy on the slide going, where do I begin? And many of you have already mentioned that you're on LinkedIn. And so for the purpose of this presentation, I'm only going to focus on a few social media channels to help amplify your online presence, LinkedIn being the first one we're going to talk about because that's where we have the professional connections and professional network. First, I've got some action items for you all. Oh, yes. Ness asked if I could please send my brand statement. I'll copy and paste it over for you in just a second. So some action items for you to think about. You got to set goals because you're amplifying your brand. But if you don't have goals, how is that going to inform what you do and what decisions you make? Research your niche, meaning other companies, other brands who are in your niche, other industry leaders who are in your niche. If you've not done this yet, I encourage you to do so. And then research people that you would like to connect with. If you are looking for a job, I encourage you to look for the companies that you would possibly like to work for and connect with those people that are in the roles that you are looking for within that company. And then connect with them, right? Send a nice note with your connection request though on LinkedIn saying, hi, I'm interested looking at working for your company. I'd love to hear your thoughts about your position or how long you've been there, whatnot. And make it about having a conversation, not making it about, hey, can you help me find a job? Because they don't know you. Help them get to know you. And so I absolutely recommend anytime you connect with folks or send a connection request, LinkedIn allows you the option to add a note. So just so people know why you want to connect with them. And it would make your connection request more likely to be accepted as well. So as I mentioned, you're looking to connect with others in your industry, prospective clients, employers, collaborators, partners. And then decide which social media channels are right for you. You all just mentioned a few just now, right? LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There is a ton of them. There's a plethora of them. And I think for the creative space, there's many other channels too, like DeviantArt. I think Grace had mentioned Tumblr, Reddit. I don't know if you all are big users of Reddit, right? So how do you decide what social media channels are right for you? Well, that goes back to who is it that you're trying to connect with, and who is it that you're trying to reach, and where can you find them? If the people that you're looking to connect with are, say, prospective clients or employers, you most likely will find them on LinkedIn. So I would say that would be a choice that should be considered. Or if you're looking for collaborators in the creative space, maybe it's Instagram, because Instagram is a very, great place to showcase visually your solutions, your product, your designs. So perhaps Instagram is the space. So just decide, again, set your goals, decide who it is you want to connect with, and then that helps you decide which social media channels are right for you, because we only have so much time in the day and we can't be everywhere. And so make it the ones that are going to be relevant to what your goals are for your brand. And then I included optimizing your LinkedIn profile. As I mentioned, LinkedIn is very important professionally. And so I'm going to go through a few steps to make sure that you have your profile optimized. And LinkedIn has recently really made search much more robust on their platform. And so by making sure that your profile is optimized for the keywords that you want to be found for and others, it'll be easier for people to find you and connect with you as well. Just to give you an example, General Assembly, who partnered up with Design Buddies for this presentation, Gabriella found me because she did a search on LinkedIn for digital marketers, and that's how she found me, because it was part of my profile. So one of the very first action item that I mentioned to you guys was goals, right? I'm sure many of you are familiar with SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So let's think about this. Let's be specific. Why are you on a specific channel? Why are you on LinkedIn? Why are you on Instagram? What do you want to achieve? And these are just examples. You can set your own goals for your brand, whether it be, another goal could be, I want to connect with 3 people who are in my industry in this particular role. Whatever that goal is, make it as specific as possible. Is it measurable? As I mentioned, when you say, I want to connect with with 3 people in my industry in this particular role, that's measurable. You just mentioned it's 3 of them. Is it attainable? Is it achievable? Is it realistic? I think 3 people is very realistic. If you said, I want to connect with 60 people in a month, that may not be as realistic or attainable. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but you want to make sure that it is something that you can attain. And how is your brand relevant to your community? And we'll talk a little bit more about offering value to the community first before you have that ask, right? Then set a deadline or a time frame for yourself. If, say, for example, your goal is to be more active on Instagram, that's the specific channel. So, what's that time frame you want to consider? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? So within the first 3 months, what is it that you want to do to help you have a consistent presence on Instagram? Any questions about SMART goals this far, or put in the comments? And so I'm going to give you guys an example, right? I want to grow my community on LinkedIn, making it measurable, grow it by X number of connections or a certain percentage. Say right now you have 100 connections. And also with that comes a caveat. Think about quality over quantity, right? In the early days of LinkedIn, people were just sending requests left and right because there was some magical number of getting to, I think it was like 5,000 or something. And now that's not really the case. You want to make sure that it is quality over quantity. Well, yes, having a robust network, having more folks will help to amplify your brand, but you want to make sure it's relevant to you and they're relevant, that you are relevant to them as well. Your brand is relevant to them. And then making it measurable. You decided on, okay, 10 people for the next 2 months. Is that attainable or realistic? I think it is, but it depends on your time frame. It depends on the capacity you have, right? With work, you can't be on LinkedIn all day long because you got to work. So decide what's going to be realistic for you. And then how can you reflect your value to those that you're wanting to connect with? So you got to make sure that it's a relevant connection for them, and vice versa, it's a relevant connection for you. And then time bound, what's a realistic time frame, as I mentioned. Okay, so I've given you a lot of food for thought thus far, I think. And then so, there's so many opportunities online to connect with folks. And I'm going to focus, as I mentioned, on a few social media channels and just other activities that will help you to amplify your online presence. I don't know if many of you are familiar with the term content marketing. It's a term that we marketers use quite a bit, and commercial brands take advantage of it, and your personal brand can too. And really what it is simply is sharing content that is valuable to those that you want to connect with or those you are already connected to reflect your subject matter expertise and have them drawn to your brand because you're talking about something that's relevant to them. And that content could be information that's beneficial or valuable in your industry. It could be sharing information from another source. And then part of that content is also communicating your story in order to connect with others, right? Because every one of us has a story, and if you share it and you're not afraid to share that story, it could help you connect with others because they may have been in the same situation previously, or you have that similarity that they can connect with, or it resonates with them. And then, as I mentioned, content helps you to amplify, enhance your brand, showcases your subject matter expertise, and it lends credibility to you. And we'll talk a little bit more later on in the presentation about how it helps to lend credibility. So, as I mentioned previously, I'm going to focus on LinkedIn quite a bit because that's the professional network. And I wanted to kind of give you some technical just optimization tips to help your online presence on LinkedIn. If you've not updated your profile in a while, I encourage you all to do so. So take these tips and then afterwards go and optimize your profile, right? Make sure that your photo is an updated one. It does not necessarily have to be a professional headshot. If you have one, that's great. If you don't, go find a neutral background, ask one of your friends to take a photo with your mobile phone for you, because all of our devices now are really great cameras with really great resolution. But make sure it's one of, a headshot of your face that people can see easily. I know that I've seen profiles where people use like their family photos, their photo of their dog. That's all great on Facebook. But for this channel, because it is a professional networking and connection platform, I really discourage folks to do so, because if I'm connecting with you online and then I say I come and meet you in person, I don't know who you are really if you're sharing a group photo, but also gives them a chance to see you, because again, you're online and you want to have that face-to-face kind of connection virtually. So I encourage you to do so. Make sure that the headline includes like relevant keywords. Recently, LinkedIn increased it to 220 characters. So you have a little bit more room to work with. And then if you go to my LinkedIn headline, you'll see it says, I think, community builder, digital marketer. You have some leeway to be creative with it. But you've probably seen folks using like a bunch of asterisk and a bunch of different characters, thinking that it's going to bring them up to the top of the search. Doesn't work that way. Although I have seen some folks recently using emojis as part of their headlines. And really, you know why they did that? It's because of the spammers in the messages when they try to spam you, instead of, they just pull your name, right? Well, if the emoji's there, they pull the emoji, so you know that the message is from a spammer. So that's why you'll see folks doing that. Grace, and the emojis, yes. And then, so this used to be called LinkedIn summary. It's right underneath the part of your profile. And in the past, people have written it like it was the cover letter of their resume. And again, because we've made this transition into being a little less formal and a little less corporate speak, I would encourage you all to write your about section in first person, making sure again that you're using the relevant keywords for what you want to be known for. Include any media that you may have been a part of, right? Like if you've written a blog, or if you were in a video where you taught a specific skill, make sure that you include that as well, because LinkedIn allows you to do it now. Because again, it showcases your subject matter expertise. And then also you can focus on future goals. In one of the personal branding workshops I did in person for General Assembly, I had a young woman who was transitioning from the financial industry into a completely different industry. And she was worried that people would not take her seriously, but she was taking the steps that she needed to be, to really beef up her experience and her skills in this new industry. And so that's what I advised her to do, is to include that in her about, highlight the certifications and the trainings that she was receiving and what she wanted to achieve with this new training. And by the way, your brand evolves too. So you're not stuck. Don't think that just because I'm doing this now, it can't evolve into something else. As I shared with you, I've been across many different industries in the last 30 years. And in each of those industries, I have worked to, feature my subject matter expertise in that specific one. So it can evolve. And then we're going to continue with the optimization. As I mentioned previously, take advantage of the search engine optimization opportunities that LinkedIn has for us. Include the keywords that prospects would enter into LinkedIn or into any other search engine as well. If you have a company website, or if you have a website for your portfolio, I would absolutely include it as well to drive traffic there. And so this is the section that is going to be on your profile. It allows you to have the intro, the about, featured, background, skills. Fill this out as much as possible. I know it's going to take a little bit of work at first, but I promise you it will pay off in the long run. And then also next to the profile section, there's this lovely little button that says open to. And it used to only be open to job opportunities, but now you can actually include services that you offer to others as well. So I would definitely scope that out and fill that out too. If you've got design services that you are offering to clients, or future employers even, right? And you do a lot of contract work. And then in the featured section, you're able to feature posts, articles, links, and media. So that's both photo or video. Again, as I mentioned, if you've written a blog post or an article for somebody, if there are links that can link to your portfolio or other relevant information for your brand, I encourage you to do so. Oh, and here's the open to that I mentioned. It's finding a job, are you hiring, and then providing services. So this part is probably what's going to be most relevant for you. And then, okay, I've helped you to optimize. Hopefully these tips have helped you to optimize your profile. What do I share on LinkedIn? And this is the question I hear most often from folks, whether you're a business or a personal brand. These are some ideas about what to share on content. Articles or information in your field or your niche. Be sure that you add your own thoughts or insights though. Say you wanted to share an article about a new design trend. You add your own thought. Oh, I think this trend is great. However, I would include this. So be sure to add that, because simply hitting share is easy, but it doesn't tell your community anything about why you're sharing it and why it should be relevant to them. And then share content from the industry leaders and brands that you follow. Also search industry topics and hashtags and share that content, and including your own insight. I think on LinkedIn, you're allowed to follow 3 hashtags. So make sure that you follow the ones that you want to follow, and you'll serve up the content for that particular hashtag. And that's part of your profile. And then when you're sharing content, if you're sharing original content, I would absolutely encourage you to include a photo, because photos with content have been shown to have a 65% retention. And I believe this is a stat from LinkedIn itself. So are you a writer? Do you love to write, but you don't have your own blog? Well, guess what? LinkedIn allows you to do this. So it used to be called LinkedIn Publishing, and now it's articles. You can create original content, treat it like it's your own blog. You can repurpose and amplify blog content that you've written previously. One of my clients, the company leader, we took some blogs that he wrote previously, updated it, and added it to his personal profile. It increased his engagement quite a bit by making sure that he published this content. And most recently, LinkedIn allows you to create this article from your personal profile or a company page. So if you have a company page for your brand or a business page for your brand, you can do that as well. Make sure, again, you're using keywords or any backlinks to relevant information, content. Tag people and brands that are relevant to the content. Don't spam tag. Please don't spam tag, because LinkedIn will penalize you. So we talk about this algorithm. And then video. Native video launched back in 2017, and studies show that video has 3 times the engagement of just plain text post. I know many people may not be comfortable with video, but this is recorded video I'm talking about, right? So go take a stab at it. Try it out. In my personal branding workshops, I typically encourage folks to go just shoot a short video afterwards talking about themselves or what they learned in the personal branding workshop, and seeing what kind of engagement they get. But it allows you to showcase your subject matter expertise in a way that is engaging to people, aside from someone simply reading text. LinkedIn Live was launched, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago now. You still have to apply for it. And so I included the link there. And we can absolutely, make sure that you guys get it in the chat too. I encourage you to go ahead and apply if live streaming is your thing. As you can see, LinkedIn's own information shows that live streaming gets 7 times the reactions and 24 times comments. So that's a lot of engagement. And live streaming, typically, if you follow any live streamers, typically is a much more engaging content medium. Thank you, Grace. So now that I've given you all those tips to optimize and LinkedIn content ideas, these folks are standing around looking like they're having a conversation, right? So can you do this online? Yes, you can. And so that's the really key part of it too. It's not simply just sharing information, but it's having that conversation with folks. Remember I mentioned you could follow the hashtags for your industry? Well, LinkedIn, once you're following the hashtag, will give you notifications of a post saying, hey, you may want to jump into this conversation. Here's your chance to go ahead and converse with someone, add your own insights, and again, showcase your subject matter expertise. And the LinkedIn algorithm, I know we keep saying this magical word for all the channels is algorithm, does take into consideration how often you engage with others, meaning if you hop onto a post and you make a comment, sure, clicking like or whatever reaction is super simple as well, and that is considered an engagement, but it is not considered as important an engagement as you hopping on and making a comment and conversing with folks on the post. And then a couple of people that I wanted to share for you to connect with. So Miguel M, I love him. He used to teach with General Assembly as well, and he is in the design industry. He's a UX designer. I encourage you to connect with him on LinkedIn and then follow his Instagram as well, because it'll give you some content ideas and it'll give you an idea of how he amplifies his brand. He does a really great job with his personal brand. Miguel Makes is what his personal brand is across the board. So if you guys want to find. And then String Win. Again, you can follow folks. You don't necessarily have to connect with them, but she is a great content creator. She's actually, LinkedIn has her listed at the top of their content creator list. And she's just a great person to follow to help learn a little more about how to amplify your personal brand on LinkedIn. And she's a huge proponent of video on LinkedIn as well. And so just String Story is how you'll find her. And part of her brand, you can see from the emojis, is fried chicken. which is kind of funny, but she loves fried chicken and people remember her for this, right? So again, that can be part of your brand. Don't worry about being too buttoned up, especially in the creative field that most of you are in. I'm going to talk about Instagram really quickly because it is such a great tool for visual representation of your brand because you are in the design niche and design industry. If you've not gone to optimize your profile, again, here's your chance to do so. Make sure you have a recognizable username. If you are able to use the same username across all the channels, that would be wonderful. Like Miguel uses Miguel Makes. Unfortunately, my name is not, I can't use the exact same one across all of the channels, but if you're able to do so, then do so. And update your profile photo or add a logo. Here's on Instagram, you can add a logo. On LinkedIn, I would not advise a logo because again, make it personal. Use a headshot. Your bio allows you 150 characters. Don't worry about the hashtags in your bio. Don't waste the characters. And then for those of us, most of us who have less than 10,000 in our community, we're not going to be able to do the swipe up and have live links in our comments. So we need to be able to swap out the links in the bio or use Linktree or some other service like that. And hashtags are so important. If you love hashtags, this is where you get a chance to use it. Instagram allows you up to 30 hashtags. I personally have never gotten to 30 hashtags, but also make sure that they are relevant hashtags to what your content is or what your brand is. Most recently, Instagram themselves have recommended using 3 to 5 hashtags. That's a huge decrease in what they used to recommend. They used to recommend 15 to 18. So, don't freak out if you use more than 5, but just make sure that it's relevant. And Instagram does a great job of suggesting hashtags to you as well. So if you start posting something and use a hashtag, it'll drop down with a bunch of recommendations for you. There are so many different types of content types on Instagram, just like what I said about the channels. Figure out what works best for you and choose those for you, right? You don't have to do every single thing that Instagram offers. I did include a couple of examples here from, I looked for UX feeds on Instagram. So wanted to just put that up there so you guys could go follow them and get an idea of how they amplify their brand on Instagram. So you've got feed, right, which is just the static content. You've got stories, which is Snapchat wannabe. You have reels, which is TikTok wannabe. And then IG video, which was formerly known as IGTV. And IG video is for long form content. So anything that is over the 60 seconds that they allow in the static feeds. You have live streaming that then can be saved as IG video. And then you have guides too. And what the heck are guides, in case you're not familiar with it? To me, it's almost like a Pinterest like feature where you're able to curate content into a guide for folks. And so, again, I encourage you to discover what works best for your brand. You don't have to do every single one of these things. No one has all the time in the day to do every single one of these things. So if you find that stories is more engaging with your community, stick to stories. If you find that reels stick to reels. Whatever is going to help you best amplify your brand. And I bring up YouTube because if you didn't know, YouTube is owned by Google. And what is Google? Google is the largest search engine in the world, which makes YouTube the second largest search engine in the world. And so YouTube is important for your brand to be found, right? For that search engine optimization. Again, if this is not your thing, if video is not what you want to do, don't do it. If you love video and you want to do video, then get on YouTube. But it does help you with the search engine optimization. And so I found a UX designer, Max here, who looks like, he's got like 45,000 subscribers. Wanted to share that with you all if you wanted to follow him and get an idea of how he uses YouTube for his personal brand. And then this one, he's not a designer, but I love this guy. He's a plumber, and he has done such a great job of maximizing and amplifying his brand, other plumbers now hire him to help them market their business. So he's still doing a lot of plumbing business and doing a lot of like how-to videos for those of us consumers who need a plumber, but he's now the plumbing marketing guru that other plumbers go to. So and he's funny. So if you guys want to follow him just to get an idea of what he does, he uses humor quite a bit to his advantage. All right, I've gone through that very quickly. As I mentioned to you, in the time frame that I have with you guys tonight that we're sharing together, I was going to only talk about a few platforms, but there are other ones that you all mentioned at the beginning, right? Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat. Again, where are you going to find your community? Where are you going to find the people that you want to connect with? Go there, go where they live. Don't feel like you have to be everywhere. And then I'm going to leave you with a few final just thoughts, right? Be consistent with your content marketing. And consistent doesn't mean that you have to post every single day, every single hour of every day. Decide what works best for your schedule. If consistent to you is 3 to 5 posts in the week, great. If it's 2 for the week, great. But at least some consistency so people will see you present online. And I can't reiterate this enough, right? Find the digital channels you're most comfortable with and rock those. Then give value that others deem beneficial. It's about your community, not you. And at the end of the day, it's still about the personal connections. Technology helps us to make those connections, but developing relationships helps us to keep them. So, like Grace is in the Bay Area, but she and I could schedule some time to have coffee or tea together and talk to each other via Zoom and get to know each other. So let technology help you, do so. It's a tool to help us. It doesn't have to replace anything, right? But it's just a tool to help us. And with that, any questions? I know we've gone through things very quickly, and I think Grace had mentioned a platform where to drop in your questions, and the things were going to be upvoted.
Yeah, for sure. We have some interesting questions coming in. We can do we want to do questions first or like a quick 30-second group photo?
Let's do a group photo.
Yeah. Meanwhile, as we do a group photo, feel free to keep adding questions to Slido. As what Kate dropped in the chat, and about each other's, we'll have a Q&A after that as well. But yeah, if you could stop sharing your screen.
Oh yeah.
I could have other I'll count down 5 seconds if you all want to turn on your camera for our group photo at the same time. Connect with us, connect with Anne. All of the links are in the chat dropped by Kate, and keep upvoting your questions. All right, 10, 9. Also, feel free to bring any object you want. I have Fluffle with me.
Love it.
Yeah, Fluffle's our friendly mascot bunny. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. We're gonna do a static one first in a way. For the group photo, I'll take multiple and choose the one everyone looks best in. Where was I? 4, 3, 2, 1. Say personal branding.
Personal branding.
Personal branding, or say Fluffle. All right, I'm gonna do a wave for Instagram story. So we do this to spice things up, we like doing things differently at Design Buddies, because just photos, everyone does photos. We take it one step further here. Already, set, wave. Hello, buddies. We just had an awesome talk with Anne about how to increase your personal brand and build your online presence. Thank you, buddies, for coming. We're going to hop to the Q&A now. Cool. Yeah, for the interest of time, we're going to take some questions on Slido and try to finish on time. But really quick, Anne, do you have a couple of minutes in case we go a little bit over time?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I encourage everyone to connect with me on LinkedIn. If we are not able to get to your question tonight, feel free to message me, connect with me, and I'll be happy to answer your question.
Yeah, okay. Cool. So the first question is there a benefit to collecting, then resharing other people's content in your field? I noticed a lot of people retweet on Twitter or repost on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, right, if you look for others' content that is relevant to your industry and to your community, and you want to share it, because there's none of us have the time to constantly create original content. And we don't need to recreate the wheel because somebody's written this content. But when you share it, as I mentioned, I really encourage you to make sure you add your own insights to it so that people know why you're sharing it and why it should be paid attention to.
Yeah, love that. Next question is there a way to reset your personal brand if you're pivoting? Like, do people just like delete their whole social media, create a new account, delete all the photos? Or what are your tips on giving someone who might be just want to rebrand entire industries, entire career your direction?
I get that question a lot, actually. So your experience on LinkedIn is going to be kind of is relevant to everything that you've done, right? I've kept most of the things that I've done over the last 30 years, even though it was in other industries, because it showed my breadth of experience, if you will. And so if you think something is going to be super detrimental, meaning like it's totally not relevant to what you want to pivot into, sure, delete it. On Instagram, you have a little more leeway to delete some, the old content and continue forward with your brand, but it's absolutely not necessary to do so.
Yeah, I remember when I was applying to college, I went ahead and privated all my childhood complaining about Maple Story Server down posts as well. So also like remember any content you don't want recruiters to see on there. So
yes, exactly, right. If you cannot show it to your grandmother, then most likely you don't want to show it to a prospective recruiter or client either.
Yeah, I mean we got all go through those phases. Maybe I'm the only one. I don't know. Yeah.
You are not the only one.
Yeah. Next question is, should you separate your personal Instagram from your business one? And how do you kind of draw the line between what to share on both or like when to create a business Instagram?
No, that's a great question too. I started with a personal Instagram and I converted it to a professional one. So if you go to my Instagram account, it's not one that I'm super active on either, but it's still, I still share more personal things. I share about the activities I do with marketing. I share about the volunteer work that I do because the Arthritis Foundation, as you see, is a very near and dear cause to me. But I wanted the insights. And so if you are looking for data to show what content is working for your brand, then you need to switch it to a professional account. Otherwise, you won't be able to access any of that data.
Yeah, or you create multiple accounts. I have like 7 Instagram accounts for random things I do in my life.
Yes, but who has time to manage 7 accounts? And yeah. So on Instagram, you do have that leeway of being able to create multiple accounts, unlike some of the other platforms.
Oh yeah, I think LinkedIn's like against terms and conditions to create multiple accounts.
Yep, exactly.
So just be mindful of that.
Facebook, same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
The likelihood of them coming across your stuff and taking you down is slim, but it does happen, and I have seen it happen. And so you don't want to lose all that hard work by having duplicate and accounts.
Yeah, and yes, Michael, 7 Instagram accounts for really random things. Only 3 of them are active though. But yeah. So another question is, I feel like I'm a journalist and am having a hard time simplifying my brand. What advice do you have to brand myself so that others can understand me best?
Well, where do you want to go with your brand, right? You said you're a journalist. What do you want to brand yourself?
Generalist.
Oh, generalist. I'm sorry. At the very beginning, we talked about goals. And so decide what it is, the goal that you want for your brand. What do you mean by a generalist? Are you in the design industry? Are you an engineer? What industry or vertical are you in? And then within that industry, what role do you want to be known for? What do you want people to see you as? What expert or thought leader do you want others to see you as? And so then that'll help you decide on what you want to do for your brand. It boils down to what your goal is.
Yeah. And what, like, I guess also like what industry you want to be in. If you want to be like a fintech, you can post more fintech stuff and so on.
Exactly. So research the industry that you want to be in, that you want your brand to be known for, and decide on your goals and then go from there.
Yeah. Cool. Next question is there a downside to having an emoji on your LinkedIn? I know there's a comment in the chat about how effects might affect SEO. And the second part to that is, what advice do you have to break the ice with a new connection?
Okay. No, so the emoji I mentioned was in the headline. It doesn't affect your search engine or your SEO as much, but because content and conversations are becoming more personable and less formal on LinkedIn, people are using emojis, right? But again, appropriate ones, right? Don't use the eggplant or whatever else, other emojis that could be misconstrued. So I use smiley faces quite a bit. I use the clapping hands because I'm, celebrating something for someone. So don't be afraid to use emojis, but make it, relevant to you. I use emojis a lot, like when I want to separate like bullets, because you can't do a bullet point on LinkedIn. So, if I want to make several points, I use an emoji for each one.
Yeah, definitely. Be mindful which emoji you use as well and the meaning behind it. Yeah. Next question is, could you / should you change your Instagram name if it's not recognizable? And I'm gonna assume this is in the context of, like, I know a lot of designers and artists, they might have another like pen name or just like another alias. But then their job is, I guess most of people's goal here is to get a job. Like, how would you recommend that? Because I have that, like, for example, for me, I have an art Instagram called Candy Leaf, but my name is not Candy Leaf. And so I guess for people trying to, I also struggle with this is that level. Like for people and just like kind of wanting to get a career in like the creative field, but have another like pen name or alias, how would you recommend them go about that?
Yeah, no, that is a great question too. So what is it that you want to brand? Do you want to brand Candy Leaf or do you want to brand Grace Ling? What's more important to you, right? And so Instagram does allow you to change your username. For example, mine used to be, because again, it was a personal account, so it was just N170, but I wanted to be recognizable with my other usernames like on Twitter and on LinkedIn, so I changed it to AntiWin170. The numbers are there only because somebody else already has anti-win. It has no really relevance to me in any way, shape, or form. But decide on who or what it is that you want to brand. And if you want to brand both, if you want to brand your business, Candy Leaf, if that's the business, then absolutely don't be afraid to keep that there too. But just be mindful: do you have the bandwidth and the capacity to manage 2 channels or 2 profiles? Although, Grace, I think you said you have 7.
Yeah, not all of them are active though. There's some I made like in high school about like food art. I have a boba account, study ground, like all those random things. Because I noticed like on Instagram you have to have a niche, otherwise people will unfollow you if you don't post exactly what your niche is. That is why.
Yes, it is very it's highly advisable to have a niche, right, so that people can find you for that specific niche.
Yeah. Cool. I saw a question. What are Twitters? Feel free to connect with each other on the networking sheet that Kate posted as well. Cool. And yeah, I'm gonna try to go through as many questions as I can. So
I'm going to answer this one real quick too, because someone asked if it was necessary to buy a subscription. And so, yes, you are limited on your messaging, right? And because they want to prevent spammers. In the 10 or 12 years or however long Instagram has been around, but I have been on, Instagram, LinkedIn, I've never purchased the premium account. I have been able to do what I needed to do with the free account. The premium account, I think is what they call it, is really good for like salespeople who are making those connections. But if you're just looking to use it for your brand, it's really not necessary. And again, as I mentioned, when you're connecting with folks, it allows you that small note that you can to add to why you're connecting with folks. And then once you connect with them, and I think this was the next question, right? Like how would you develop this relationship? Actually send a message. How do you develop a relationship in real life when you meet someone? Do you talk to them about their likes or their work? So find something within their profile that may be a common factor for you both and say, hey, I see that you also are a UX designer in this vertical. I've been in this industry or this role for 7 years. I'd love to hear your insights on how to expand my career. And just have a conversation.
Yeah, people love talking about themselves. So frame it around them, not trying to flip, not trying like,
exactly.
hey, give me a job because I'm awesome. But like, hey, where did you get here today? I had so much of that experience on LinkedIn.
Exactly. Make it about them, not you.
Yeah. And also like, people did that to me, but people find like sometimes people link their Twitter or like their email on their LinkedIn. You can just contact them there as well.
Yeah. Usually you
Just so you
have to be
found on LinkedIn.
connected with them
Mhm.
first to see the contact information. But some folks make it
Oh,
a little bit easier. But yeah, but absolutely. And yes, the subscription is pricey. I think it's like $50 to $60 a month, and
yeah.
that can get be a crunch to your budget.
I think everyone has like 1 month free of premium to try.
Mhm.
I actually did mine, and then it gave me another one. So I don't know how this is
Yeah, they keep trying to
going.
draw you back in and like use it, right? So they keep giving you kind of free months, and you have to be
Yes.
super careful because then the subscription just auto renews and you end up with a bill and you're like, wait.
Yeah, for everybody out there, make sure you cancel your subscription. Put your calendar to cancel or cancel right away. You usually still get your benefits. Yes. Cool. There's another question is I'm interested in a creative direction long term, but now I'm aiming for product/game UI design. How can I include long-term goals in my brand without seeming lost? Yeah,
So
so
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, so you're switching from product management to UI design or UX design, right? Is that the question to
Oh,
basically get
like
the role?
yeah, if someone's in product design/game design, but they're
Okay.
interested in more like creative direction, so maybe I guess I'm a bit unsure, but if anyone who asked that want to clarify, feel free to do so. But I'm
Yeah,
just
drop
gonna
it in the
assume,
chat to clarify. But one of the things that I talked about when we were in the LinkedIn optimization, the profile optimization, that about section, I mentioned, writing it in first person, but also focusing on future goals. So if your future goal is to move into this different role or this different design area, talk about it in your about section and why. Right, you're passionate, you have this great experience in product design, but now you're passionate about design work in this area and why, and what you're doing to get there.
yeah, that's where you can have your content strategy. You can talk about like what conferences you're attending, what books you're reading, show people in your network that you're trying to get there and you're trying really hard. People
Exactly.
love growth mindset out there.
Exactly.
That's what I do. Um, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Michelle, for dropping that. Cancel your free trials, buddies. Make sure to do that
Ah,
right now after this
love
event.
it.
Do it.
Yes,
That's my
because
action.
half the time I forget, right, and I end up getting
Yeah.
charged. I'm like,
Yeah. Put it on your calendar too. Or cancel right away. You usually still get the benefits. So to have
true,
an idea.
true.
Yeah. Cool. And the next question is, do you recommend we build a personal brand to reflect our authentic self or as someone we aspire to be?
Okay, so if you aspire to be this person, is that not authentic to your brand? Because yeah, I mean, people can see through you or a brand that's not genuine or authentic, and so I guess I'm not clear on that question either. If you're aspiring to be this other person, are you wanting to just emulate them because they are a success in your field and that's where you want to be down the road? Then there's nothing wrong with that either, right? But you still need to be very genuine to who you are, authentic to
Yeah.
yourself.
I'm assuming that means like fake it till you make it, I guess.
That's not one of my
Yeah.
favorite phrases, right? I know
Yeah,
people say it
same.
all the time, like fake it till you make it, but I feel like that just gives people the wrong impression of your brand. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's in the long run, it's going to be a downfall.
People will see like people will smell fakeness from a
Hmm.
mile away.
Hmm.
So people will know if you're
Exactly.
like really fake, like I can smell it. I'm sure like everyone else can smell it too. So
Because
their sus senses will be tingling.
it is absolutely, because at some point you'll have to have a conversation. Hopefully you'll be able to have this conversation with them, whether it's online, via Zoom or some other tech tool, but people can tell and smell it out, right? So you definitely want to, you don't do a disservice to your brand and to yourself by not being genuine.
Yeah, just being honest and be yourself.
Mhm.
And yeah, so there's a couple of more quick questions. Another one is, how would you recommend finding your niche?
Finding it.
Yeah.
Well, what are you interested in, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what's the niche that you're interested in? Then we have Google. We have this tool that helps us to do a lot of search. Look for, say, publications within that particular niche as well. or ask for advice from others who are already in that niche of like, how did you get started? Who should I, follow? What resource should I look for? And then, go from there.
Yeah,
Look for learning
definitely.
opportunities as well.
Yeah, look, also like seeing examples of other people also helps you see like, oh, do I see myself in this thing, and do it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, there's a couple of interesting questions. Oh, okay. Yeah, there I got DM'd a few questions, so I'm gonna try to make this quick. I know we're a little over time. Um,
No, it's fine. I'm happy to answer. I know, of course, I know everybody, if you need to hop off, then please, feel free to do so. This is recorded. And then again, feel free to connect with me and ask your question if we didn't get to it.
yeah.
Unless it's about that eggplant emoji, well, then don't ask me.
Yeah, don't.
I don't want that question.
Yeah, me neither. Save for work here.
I think someone dropped one in the chat, says they have a background in architecture but want to transition to UX UI design. Would you recommend to rebrand? Remember when I mentioned that your brand can evolve? So your background in architecture actually is relevant to what you want to transition into, because it is design. It's design of buildings and environments, but it is still design. And so that's a really interesting transition that may be relevant to a particular niche, right? I came across a young woman who was a violinist, actually, and classically trained and went to school for it, and she transitioned into UX UI design. That was a great conversation starter for her. She included it in her LinkedIn because everybody's like, okay, wait, you went from being a violinist to a designer? How did that happen? So don't be afraid to utilize what you've already done.
Yeah, same. It helped me a lot. Like I don't like hide the fact that I was an engineering student. I have like no design degree or qualifications whatsoever. But because I was an engineer and I was doing game dev, it helped me kind of connect that to the games industry. So now as a product designer at a large game company, I was able to leverage that without studying design or attending any boot camp whatsoever. So
Exactly.
it's like a conversation starter too.
You are a prime example of how that can help.
Yeah, and you always have different things you can draw for different careers, like engineering, like analytical thinking, that help you apply to design. So there's always stuff you can use and leverage that as your strength during interviews when you're using your unique background as your strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a pretty long question that was DM'd to me, but I think it's interesting. So a LinkedIn question. If we're 30 years old and did a 180 with our career a couple of years ago and have multiple sales jobs, and a lot of different jobs, I want to delete those from my resume and LinkedIn for people to not see the trajectory. But I'm afraid visitors seeing my profile will think I did nothing for the first 5 years out of college if my certificate and work timelines begins at 27. What are your thoughts on like hiding part of your story if you don't want to be seen, but seeing a large gap on your LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think having that gap may do more damage than sharing the story, your background, right? I mentioned, don't be afraid to share your story. I have a very varied background as well. I went from banking to marketing to advertising, and back around to marketing and advertising. That's all still there on my LinkedIn. And it's never been a detriment to my brand because I have invested much time in making sure that now people see and know that I am, skilled and experienced in marketing and digital marketing. So while that is part of my background, it's never become an issue.
Yeah, and at those jobs like restaurant host, sales, um, you gain a lot like people communication skills, and you leverage that to your advantage, or leverage that as like your strength or something you have like skills on top of design as well. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
another way I would think
absolutely.
about it.
Yep. No, I agree with you, Grace, because I feel like every role that I've had, every industry that I have been in has helped me along the way to where I am now. Because regardless of what it was, there was some skill or other thing that I learned that I can still utilize now.
Yeah. Oh, follow up. Would you delete all the skills and endorsements from those careers if they aren't transferable?
Well, are the skills and endorsements about specific, I guess, skills within that industry, or is it about like your work ethic? Is it about your commitment and drive? Those are all transferable because that's all you, that's all part of your brand. So that regardless of what industry you're in, you want people to know that, hey, you'll give 110% to whatever it is you do. Now, if it's again specific to like I coded, whatever, right, program, then and it's no longer relevant, sure, don't be afraid to take it down. But I've not deleted any of the skills or endorsements that I've had over the years.
Yeah, it's all about like it's a nice conversation starter as well. And in my experience, well, given my background's relatively new grad, I haven't had anyone look down upon like me and like blogging or engineering skills or like unrelated, not directly related skills at all. Like I still have them on my LinkedIn profile. So I guess coming from my personal experience, I don't mind leaving it on, but you could also delete it if you want to. So I feel like it doesn't harm you, but you could if you
No.
want.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's detrimental, but if you find that as you're going along and people are asking you about these non-relevant skills, and you find that recruiters are or potential clients are, then at that point decide, okay, this is doing me more harm. But again, you probably will find that it's not going to be detrimental to your brand going forward.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up like a lot of our questions. The other ones
Awesome.
is a lot of yes or no questions, but people can reach out to Anne on LinkedIn if you have any additional questions. And before we wrap it up, Anne, is there any other pieces of advice you'd like to share with our buddies here today?
Just go out there and do it.
Do
Connect with
things, tell
people,
people.
right? Tell
Yeah.
people, right? Again, as I mentioned, don't be afraid to just have that conversation, and really above all, connect with folks and really truly genuinely want to develop that relationship with them. That's what's going to help your brand.
Yeah. Make friends, connect with
Yes,
people, do
exactly.
things, tell people, connect with people. Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Anne, and also Kate from our events team for helping out. I'm going to stop the live stream now. And